Number 6 and 7 have withdrawn, so we go to David Davis.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. When I saw I was number 7A on the call list, I thought perhaps I was the first reserve for the member for Cotswold. I didn't realise I got promotion rights too. So thank you for that. Now, one of the effects of the shock of the pandemic, along with other geopolitical changes, is that after 50 years of global trade liberalisation, the world is facing a long period of aggressive mercantilism, and we have to deal with that. So the government is to be congratulated for its ambitious agenda, including record increases in research spending, which hasn't got a mention today, the employment drive, the Freeport programme, the campaign for ambitious free trade agreements, and the bold infrastructure plans. I also welcome, on a non-economic front, the excellent proposals to guarantee free speech on campuses. However, I have serious concerns about several aspects of the Queen's speech.
Well, my right honourable friend...
Yes, of course.
Amongst those concerns, is my right honourable friend including the issue of the point 7, on which he and I have not always agreed in the past?
Yeah, well, he's quite right. I oppose the increase to 0.7 because I thought it was too fast and I thought it would encourage inefficiency. But once you're at 0.7, reducing it will lead to the loss of lives. So yes, I absolutely agree with him on that. On the more domestic front, the most important of the domestic issues that concerns me is the proposed police crime sentencing and courts bill. This bill reverses the reforms we put in place in 2017 after the scandal of the treatment of Paul Gambaccini, who was on police bail for well over a year before not being charged. Even now, after that reform, far too many suspects are still bailed for years on end. Years on end. I currently have a case in front of me where an individual has spent 5.5 years on bail without an end in sight. This is crippling to an individual's life. It's like a sort of loose house arrest. And the National Crime Agency showed zero understanding of the cruel damage to a person's life that was being done by their ridiculously slow investigation. The police bill as it stands will make these problems worse by relaxing the current restrictions on police bail. So I would give notice to the government. I will aim to amend that when it comes. That bill also contains a proposal for the mass collection of data under the auspice of preventing and reducing serious violence. Here we have the government countenancing pre-crime, and to deal with pre-crime, they have to have your medical data, they have to have your health data, your education data, and there's no restriction on it. So all this data, it imposes a duty on an array of authorities, as I say, including health providers, to share data with the police. Now we know from history, whether it's with having your phone confiscated or whatever, that once the police have this data, getting them to delete it and give it back is the devil's own job. Indeed, it's near impossible. Anybody who's tried it, it's near impossible. We're talking here about massively enhancing the powers of the state, or an agent of the state, to collect as much data on as many individuals as they see fit. So I want to see that restricted too. Finally, I am concerned about the threat to the right of protest, which this country has enshrined in our national fabric for over 800 years, the right to peaceful demonstration. The Home Secretary promised me from that dispatch box that we will be incredibly careful to protect that fundamental right. However, I'm afraid the wording of this bill, as it stands, simply does not do that. It needs reform, and I will endeavour to ensure it's put right. Finally, my name is, along with the Honourable Member for Walthamstow, on the amendment to the Queen's speech that calls on the government to obey the law in those areas where the courts have ruled it's acting illegally. And there are a number of cases here where the government has not done what it's been told to by the courts 3-4 years ago. Many of these cases affect the rights of children. Rule of law is not a theoretical constitutional concept. It affects lives, it affects living standards of bereaved adults and deprived children. And we should, as a Conservative party, a Conservative government, stand up for the rule of law, even when it's inconvenient and when the Treasury finds it unpleasant because it has to pay out a few £100 million. This Conservative government should be one that limits the power of the state rather than enlarging it, celebrates freedom rather than curtailing it, and operates under the rule of law rather than under ministerial fiat. And I hope that this Parliament, of all the parties, will hold the government to that. Otherwise, we'll risk betraying the ideals of the country that we live in.
Liam Byrne.
Thank you very much indeed, Madam Deputy